Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome back to MovieJoob, and welcome back to our Little Nightmares character concept series. So in today's video, the character we created is known as the Merchant. So we're going to this character's backstory, gameplay mechanics, and all that good stuff as well. But before we do any of that, do be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to help us reach our goal of 500k subs. And as always, we just like to state that everything in this video is our own creation and not linked to the overall universe and lore of Little Nightmares. So just keep that in mind and enjoy the video. But alrighty, with that all out of the way, let's get into the character concept for the Merchant. So previously in our Little Nightmares character concept series, we've been looking into some custom characters that would fit in the world of Little Nightmares 3. So far we've been looking at the characters from the Necropolis. The characters we've seen so far in this sandy, ruined wasteland have been the Mortician and the Tunneler. Both of these twisted characters offered their own unique abilities and challenges for the players. They were both out to capture Lowen alone, but in the end, our main characters managed to escape. But now as they travel through the Necropolis, they are bound to see another evil character that are surely out to get them. And speaking of this new character, let's meet them now. So the next Necropolis character is known as the Merchant. The Merchant is a hulking monstrosity draped in tattered robes that barely conceal his grotesque appearance. His body is a mass of strong muscles and scarred tissue. A second grotesque head sprouts from his neck. Its unsettling eyes are constantly scanning its surroundings, looking out for thieves. The Merchant's wares are as bizarre and unsettling as his appearance. He deals in strange and twisted artifacts, cursed trinkets, and potions brewed from unspeakable ingredients. If you're looking for something rare and out of the ordinary, then the Merchant is your salesman. With his large hulking build, he carries all his wares on his back. Wooden crates and leather sacks are tightly strapped to his body. Most of the time, the Merchant will be lumbering around the marketplace. The Necropolis used to have a booming market district, filled with every nightmarish item one could want. But ever since the dwellers were turned into stone, the market has become empty and abandoned. The Merchant is the only vendor left amongst all the old dusty stalls. He still continues to roam around the markets in hopes of having another customer wander through. And soon enough, he'll have 2 new customers enter the markets. But Lowen alone won't be the type of customers he's expecting. And sure enough, the Merchant will make Lowen alone a part of his many items for sale. Speaking of Lowen alone, we now return back to their journey. They've both been crawling and climbing their way through the ruins of the Necropolis. And now they've reached a new area that they haven't seen before. This area is filled with little stalls that contain all kinds of different and strange items. Both Lowen alone have never seen items like this before. Some are very interesting and intriguing, and others are quite disturbing and strange. But one thing that catches their eyes is a bunch of strange looking fruit. This fruit is oddly shaped and seems very dry, but they were both starving and needed something to eat. So without hesitation, they both bite into the strange looking fruit. It has a weird texture, but tastes slightly sweet. In all honesty, it's probably been the best thing Lowen alone have eaten since their journey. As they both eat their share of fruit, Lo sees something in the distance. They both quickly hide as this large shadow moves towards them. As they get closer, it's revealed to be the Merchant. His small second head seems to have spotted Lowen alone eating the fruit. Its eyes are constantly scanning all over to spot anyone stealing. And it just saw these 2 little thieves eating fruit. The Merchant arrives at the stall and can't see Lowen alone anywhere. They must have escaped just in time before he got to them. Regardless, the Merchant continues to search around the area in hopes of finding these little thieves. When the coast is clear, Lowen alone come out of hiding. Now they need to sneak past the Merchant and make it out of the markets alive. So throughout this gameplay segment, the players will need to constantly hide from this roaming threat. They can hide behind multiple items and wait until they're out of the Merchant's view. He'll be roaming around on a loop, and whenever he appears, they'll have to quickly hide. And when it's safe to do so, Lo and Alone can start climbing up through the market stalls to get to safety. Lo can shoot his bow to cut ropes that reveal new platforms to climb, and Alone can smash her way through any large objects that are blocking the way. But whenever they make a loud noise, they need to go back into hiding or else they'll be spotted. They both need to do their best to make sure they don't get spotted by the merchant. But the real problem lies with the second head. That's the one who is constantly searching around and will alert the merchant. Whenever it spots the players, it'll let out a loud scream. Then the merchant will know where to go and capture Lo and Alone. Eventually, after enough climbing up through the markets, they finally reach the top wall. Now, all they need to do is sneak up along the wall and they'll finally be out of the necropolis. But before they can reach the end of the wall, they realise who is standing right behind them. The merchant has climbed up on the wall and can finally see the two little thieves. He charges after Lo and Alone as they make a run for it. The merchant is desperate to catch them both. Nobody steals from him and lives to tell the tale. So throughout this chase sequence, the players will need to jump and swing over multiple large gaps in the wall. They can grab onto hanging ropes and swing to safety. But they'll need to be quick, because the merchant will be right behind them. Moments later, Lo and Alone need to climb on an old wooden structure. And as they climb, the merchant soon climbs after them. But with his added weight, the structure can't hold anymore. And before he knows it, the structure breaks apart as he falls off the wall. Lo and Alone manage to reach a safe ledge as the wood breaks right behind them. Finally, the merchant is no longer chasing them. And now they both make their way forward to escape this forsaken place. But who knows what other nightmarish dangers lie ahead of them? The only thing they know is that if they work together, they'll be able to get through anything. So I think that the merchant would be a really interesting character to add to our roster. I could totally imagine a character like him existing in the world of Little Nightmares. I think the looming threat of both him and his second head would put a lot of pressure on the players, especially when he's searching around the markets and constantly trying to find Lo and Alone. Both players would need to do their best to stay out of his way, because if they're spotted by the merchant, then surely they won't make it out alive. Alrighty everyone, well that's all we have for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. As always, do be sure to let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the merchant and what you'd like to see going forward. Also, be sure to let me know all your theories on what you think is going to happen in Little Nightmares 3. I'm interested to hear all your theories and also if you're going to play it or if you're excited for the game as well. And lastly, a very big thank you to all of you for watching, liking and supporting the video, as it really helps out a lot and we hope you enjoyed as well. And a very big thank you to our MovieJoob members who help support the channel. If you'd like to be a MovieJoob member, then do be sure to hit the link down below or the join button. But alrighty everyone, until our next Little Nightmares video, I'll catch you later, bye. I'm Nick here and welcome back to MovieJoob, and welcome back once again to our Little Nightmares character concept series. So in today's video, the character we're looking into is the Conductor. So we'll go into this character's location, their gameplay mechanics, and all that good stuff as well. As always, I will just state that everything we say in these videos isn't actually canon to the Little Nightmares universe, nor do we really expect Bandai Namco or Tarsier Studios to really make this character and include them in a game or a DLC. This is just a cool, creepy story we get to tell, and we hope you enjoy it. Also, just a note for all our FNAF fans out there, we are having our next FNAF character concept series video coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. And lastly, before we start today's video, do be sure to subscribe to MovieJoob as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. It also keeps you up to date with all the videos that we post. Alrighty, well, let's take a better look at the Conductor. So, our new story starts off with our little protagonist waking up aboard a mysterious train. They're not really sure where it's going, but anywhere would be better than the place they came from. It's been a couple of days since they stowed away on this dark, cold, empty train. So our little protagonist is named the Wanderer. They've roamed around from place to place, always getting by and avoiding danger whenever they can. Their face and head are wrapped with old tattered bandages. They've owned their dusty old brown coat as long as they can remember. Slung on their back is a crumpled old packet of Pale City Slims. They managed to fashion an old cigarette package into a little backpack. Along with the stray cigarettes in the pack, they also stored everything they owned in their little backpack. They hated the smell of these damn things, but they've proven to be helpful on the odd occasion. So as the Wanderer wakes up, they decide to make their way forward through the train. They haven't eaten anything in a while and hope to find something in the carriages up ahead. So in this gameplay segment, the player needs to make their way through the multiple different carriages. Right now they've found themselves in the holding area of the train. But further up were the coach and dining carriages. Surely there could be something to eat up there. Each doorway to the next carriage was locked shut. But fortunately for the Wanderer, there were little air vents above the doors that were the perfect size for them. They would need to push crates, boxes, and wooden planks over to the vent to try and make a climbable path. Once they get up and climb through the vents, they would now find themselves in the outside area of the train. They would need to climb down the ladder and balance walk their way across to the next carriage. This would be their only option to make it from carriage to carriage. There's no way they could possibly travel on the top of the train. With their size and the fast-moving winds, they'd surely be swept off. After traversing the dangerous carriage connector and climbing the ladder, they now find themselves in the next carriage. This next cargo carriage was dark and damp. Moisture dripped from the walls and ceiling. As light from the outside passed through here and there, this was revealed to be a meat holding carriage. Large hunks of meat hang from the ceiling on rusty old hooks. As they walk along the wet ground, they're met with a familiar foe. Wherever there's darkness and water, there's sure to be deadly leeches. The player needs to avoid these deadly little critters at all costs. Normally the leeches are susceptible to light, but the Wanderer only has matches that don't last very long. So they need to take out one of the cigarettes and light it with the match. The small glow that the cigarette gives off isn't enough to fend off the little creatures alone. It was actually the smoke that the slimy critters couldn't stand. The player needs to hold the cigarette and let the smoke waft off into the direction of the leeches as they make their way to the end of the carriage. They themselves need to be careful of the smoke as it would cause them to stop moving and pause to cough. Whilst coughing, they would be open to attacks from the deadly leeches. When they reach the end of the meat holding carriage, they would need to climb a large link of mouldy old sausages to reach the vent at the top. Unfortunately for the Wanderer, all the meat in this carriage was well rotten. If they were to take a nibble of any of this rotten meat, they'd surely get sick. After they reach the top, they then make their way outside and carefully walk across the carriage connector. The Wanderer now makes it to the next carriage. This was definitely a welcome change of pace. The only thing is, they weren't too sure how welcome they truly were. As they walk through, they can see multiple seats and tables. All the booths are empty, there doesn't seem to be anyone around. As they climb over all the tables, they come across the occasional silver cloche. Whenever they would open them, multiple roaches would scurry out from beneath them. Surely there had to be food somewhere on this train. They continue forward till they reach the doorway to the next carriage. This time they don't need to exit the train. They can simply walk through the door into the next carriage. As they enter, they see a large shadowy figure approaching. The Wanderer quickly hides as the individual gets closer. As they peer around the corner, it's revealed to be the conductor. The conductor is a tall individual with long swaying arms, pale sagging skin, and a large mouth filled with oversized teeth. It appears that their eyes are underneath their conductor's cap. Their conductor's uniform is old and worn, with some rips and tears here and there. They seem to be wandering around the carriages, checking on all the non-existent passengers. No one was sitting in the seats, but the conductor was still roaming around checking their imaginary tickets. So whilst the conductor was doing their aimless job, the wanderer needs to quietly sneak past them. They would have to climb over the tables and be careful not to tread on any of the silverware or make a sound. If they did, the conductor would rush over and quickly grab them. As the wanderer makes their way to the next carriage, they open the door as quietly as they can. But unfortunately, the conductor hears the high-pitched squeak of the door. The player needs to quickly run into the next room and jump down into a space in the wooden floorboards. The conductor makes their way into the room and reaches their hand into the small space. The player needs to keep their distance or else they'll be captured by this disturbing conductor. In the floorboards, there's only 2 spaces for the player to exit from. The one they came in from and the one at the end of the carriage. Unfortunately for the player, the conductor moves ahead and reaches the furthest space and sticks their hand in. The player is now stuck. They can't exit from the furthest space, and they can't exit from the entry space or they'll be seen. So in this gameplay segment, the player needs to light one of the cigarettes and place it at the entry space. This will cause the smoke to rise from the hole, making the conductor head over and investigate. Whilst this happens, the player now has a short window of time to exit and escape through the door. This now brings them to the final carriage, the train's control room. The train seems to be running fine without the conductor at the controls. Maybe it's on autopilot or something. The player hops into the controls and tries to see if they can stop the train. They weren't safe as long as the conductor was on board. And there's no way they could jump out of a moving train. They needed to locate the emergency brake and engage it. So in this gameplay segment, the player needs to search around and find the emergency brake. Once they've located it, they soon realise it's behind an emergency breakaway glass. The player needs to find something that they can throw at the glass in order to shatter it. They rummage around and find multiple items they can throw. They carry the item back to the glass and throw it. The glass cracks slightly. The wanderer needs to go back and grab another item. They throw once more and the glass shatters. The emergency brake slides out and the player is now able to grab it. As they hang there, they put all their weight on the brake as it retracts out. The train suddenly comes to a screeching halt. The door suddenly opens as the conductor comes charging in. The player needs to quickly climb up the controls and jump out the window. As they do, the conductor tries to grab them madly. The player needs to dodge their hands as they climb up the multiple controls. Finally, they can get access to the side window. In this last-ditch effort, the player needs to push the window open. Just as the conductor goes to grab them, they leap out the window and tumble down onto the ground. They can see the mad conductor yelling at them from the window. The wanderer quickly runs from the train tracks and into the woods. Finally, they were safe. But where were they now? As they move on, they prepare themselves for whatever new dangers await them next. Alrighty everyone, well that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Also in the comment section down below, let us know what you thought of the conductor and what you'd like to see going forward. Alrighty everyone, well until the next video, I'll catch you later, bye. Nick here and welcome back to MovieJoob, and welcome back to our Little Nightmares Character Concepts series. So in today's video, we'll be exploring the character, the Zookeeper. So I'll be going through the character themselves, the location they're in, the puzzles, and all that good stuff as well. Now this character idea doesn't really need to be tied to Little Nightmares 3 or a DLC, it could typically be anything, it could even be like a movie or a comic. At the end of the day, it's just a fun idea that we can share and I hope you guys enjoy it. Also, once again, a very big thank you to Jafer over on Twitter for designing today's character, the Zookeeper. Also guys, lastly, before we start today's video, if you could please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Alrighty, let's get into the zookeeper. So the zookeeper's location would be the Pale City Zoo. An empty, rundown zoo that doesn't have many visitors these days. Back in the day, the zoo would be filled with visitors who would come to see the exotic animals and attractions. But these days, the zoo looks empty and deserted. As for the main character you play as, when it comes to these character concept videos, the protagonist is never really the main focus. So for the main character in this video, I'll just be referring to them as the player or the child. Also, as for which character or new character you play as, I'll leave that up to you guys at home. Be sure to let us know what character you think would suit the zoo. So our character would approach the front gates of the Pale City Zoo. The player has to find their way through the zoo and venture further into the city. It could be that they're looking for someone in particular, or they need to reach a new area in the city and the zoo stands in their way. As the player sneaks through the bars of the front gate, we come to the main area of the zoo. We see a large statue of a gorilla in this main area. It stands tall and stares down at the player with a stern look on its face. As the child wanders through the main area of the zoo, they come across multiple empty enclosures. For a zoo, it certainly feels like there's not a lot of animals here. The player then walks down one of the paths that leads further into the zoo. Whilst walking, they see a large shadow. As they cautiously approach the shadow, they hear a loud animal cry. As they run and duck, they then see that it's not an animal at all. In fact, it's just a wooden cutout of a large animal that they've never seen before. As they look around, they see multiple large cutouts of African animals, all with inbuilt speakers that emit a sound when they approach them. The child stares in awe at another strange animal cutout with long legs and a rather long neck. As the child continues to stare at the animal cutouts, all of the noises grab the attention of a sinister character. This brings us to the antagonist of the zoo, the zookeeper. The zookeeper is a disturbing looking character with long, unnerving fingers, a safari uniform, and what looks like a creepy mask on their face. The zookeeper doesn't have any facial features like eyes or a mouth, but appears to have no visual impairment. As the zookeeper walks over and investigates all the noise, the child runs and hides behind the elephant's trunk. The zookeeper looks around to see what's triggering all the motion sensors, but can't seem to spot any intruders. The zookeeper then proceeds to grab a bunch of hay with its long, slender fingers and throws it towards the pretend animals. The player, still hiding behind the trunk, watches the zookeeper carry out these bizarre tasks. It seems a little confusing as to why this individual would be feeding and caring for wooden animals. After the zookeeper has finished feeding all the wooden animals, they then wander down the path and disappear. When it's safe to do so, the child comes out from hiding and ventures down further into the zoo, to hopefully find the exit from this disturbing place. The child decides to take a shortcut and climb into a dark-looking enclosure. Seeing that there's no real animals in sight, then it must be safe to cut through a couple of enclosures and get to the exit faster. As the child walks through this enclosure, they see a fake forest backdrop and plants everywhere. All of a sudden, they then see a couple of terrifying creatures. The child ducks in fear just as it's about to get eaten. Then they realise, once again, they've been tricked. They look up and they see a strange looking taxidermy wolf. There seems to be a whole pack of them, but they just sit there, motionless. As the child walks past the taxidermic wolves, they spot a pile of rotten meat that looks like it's been there for a while. It seems that the zookeeper has been trying to feed these lifeless creatures. As they exit the wolf's enclosure, they come to the next area of the zoo, the Primate Kingdom. This area is jungle themed and has multiple enclosures. Some are empty, and others have some lifeless still shadows just standing behind their bars. The child then sees in the distance the zookeeper who is petting a strange looking taxidermy ape. His long, slender fingers stroke the fur of this preserved animal statue. It seems like the zookeeper somewhat cares for these animals. Even if they're lifeless imitations, they still need someone to look after them. In this gameplay segment, the child would have to carefully sneak past the zookeeper without getting noticed. As the player sneaks past, they accidentally triggered the sound of one of the taxidermy chimpanzees. This loud animal cry grabs the attention of the zookeeper as he then starts to chase after the child. The player would have to run and hide in different enclosures. The zookeeper would open these enclosures and try to look for you using their long fingers to try and search you out. So in this gameplay sequence, the player would have to hide from the zookeeper and avoid getting caught. The player could hide behind multiple objects such as fake plants, rocks, or even having to hide in little pools of dirty drinking water for the animals. At the end of this cat and mouse gameplay sequence, the player then sees no sign of the zookeeper. When they walk out from hiding, the zookeeper's long fingers quickly grab the player and throw them into a little cage. The zookeeper then carries the child away to a secret location of the zoo. We then find ourselves in the final location, the secret enclosure. From their little cage, the child sees the zookeeper preparing a bunch of raw meat. The child then looks over to the large dark enclosure behind them. As they peer into the abyss, they see two large eyes staring back at them. It appears this animal is well and truly alive. We then see the zookeeper toss the meat into the large enclosure. You can hear the large disturbing creature devouring the meat. Then, all of a sudden, the player feels their cage being lifted up. The zookeeper has picked up your cage and also tosses you into the creature's enclosure. As you stand there helplessly trapped in the dark, the creature starts to bite down on the cage. Large sharp teeth puncture the inside as the cage starts to buckle and bend. With the immense pressure of the creature's jaws, the cage door bursts open. You quickly jump out of your little cage and escape the creature's enclosure. The zookeeper, whilst watching the whole ordeal, just stands there and stares at the child, who just escaped the ferocious animal. As the child stares back, there's a moment of silence. The zookeeper, now furious, chases the child in an attempt to grab them and make sure they don't escape the vicious animal's jaws a second time. As the player runs for their life, they see the exit to the zoo. The child makes a break for it and leaps through the back gates of the Pale City Zoo. As they look back, the zookeeper stares blankly at the child. But the zookeeper doesn't open the gate and attempt to chase the player. Instead, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small metal object. The zookeeper throws his object in front of the player. The child picks it up as they see a little metal gorilla statue engraved with the words, "Thanks for visiting Pale City Zoo." Alrighty guys, that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Also guys, comment down below what you thought of the zookeeper, and also whatever ideas you'd have and like to see in this zoo. Maybe there could be different animals you could want to see, or different things that I didn't go through. Share your ideas down below. But anyway guys, until the next video, I'll catch you later. Bye. I'm Nick here and welcome back to MovieJoob, and welcome to a special Christmas themed episode in our Little Nightmares character concept series. So in today's video, the character we're looking into is Krampus. So we'll go into this character's location, backstory, gameplay mechanics, and all that good stuff as well. Now as always, I will just state that this isn't necessarily linked to the overall universe and lore of Little Nightmares. This is just a fun what if scenario and a cool creepy Christmas story we get to tell. We hope you enjoy. And lastly, before we start today's special Christmas video, do be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Alrighty, well, let's get into this special Christmas Little Nightmares episode with Krampus. So our story begins in a place unknown to most. This was a place that was once filled with joy and happiness. This was once a place that brought joy to many people. But now it has become a rotten shell of itself. A place deprived of any source of joy imaginable. Although this place doesn't operate like it used to, but it still operates today. But after the previous owner was overthrown, the new management in charge ruled unmercifully. They were cruel and unfair to all the workers. They are forced to work night and day without any rest.
and those who fall behind are never seen again. Throughout this place, there are many workers, but there was one in particular who couldn't stand to live life like this anymore. They had a plan to get out of here once and for all. If they stayed any longer, it would surely be the end of them. So this individual is known as the Elf. As a matter of fact, all the workers are known as elves, but they definitely aren't their jolly selves anymore. So the elf's journey out of this wicked place starts at the assembly line. Whilst all the others were working, the elf would make a break for it. So they start by abandoning their post and sneaking past the assembly line. All the other workers were too busy to even notice, nor would they even care. It's like they were content with working their lives away. The elf couldn't even convince them to escape even if they tried. So the player needs to shimmy underneath the conveyor belt and watch out for any rejected toys. A chute would open up beneath them and the rejected toys would fall through. They needed to be careful because they would get knocked down below and into the chute as well. After they've successfully passed the assembly line, they need to then find a way up a broken step. They could use multiple old presents to pile up together and make their way up. The player can also be fooled by some of the presents. Some can be dragged, and others can be surprise presents that would give the elf quite a shock. Once they've stacked the presents up, then they can reach the steps and make it to the next area. They reach a large door. It's locked, and they need to find the key. But it doesn't mean they can't jump up to the latch and peek inside the keyhole. The room seems empty. They can see another door on the other side. Hopefully this would be the exit. And finally, they would... The elf falls from the latch and hears the door unlock from the other side. The elf quickly hides before they're found. Just as they do, a large shadowy figure walks out of the room. It was him. He was still here. They thought they had left ages ago. The elf thought that everyone worked day after day out of fear that he was still here. And it turns out he was. It seems he hasn't ran out of food just yet. He's eaten almost everything in sight. He even turned to eating the ones who pulled the sleigh. That was a shame. The elf was quite fond of them. But now they are no more. It seems that he's left the door open. Perfect. Now the elf can make their way and escape. As they walk over to the next door, they climb up on the desk. But this turned out to be a bad idea. All of a sudden, the shadowy figure burst into the room. Now we get to see who exactly this creature is. And it's revealed to be Krampus. Krampus stood on two skinny legs. Their body is covered in patches of matted fur. Two large horns protrude from their head. Their face is thin, and their mouth is filled with deadly sharp teeth. Krampus charges after the elf as they try to grab them off the desk. The player needs to outrun Krampus and make a run for the door. When Krampus reaches out his hand to grab the elf, the player needs to jump in order to dodge it. The elf leaps off the desk and onto the door handle. It opens up and the elf is exposed to the bitter cold of the outside. Everything is covered in snow. They make a run for it before Krampus can get a hold of them. They quickly run through the snow and make their way towards the stables. There was a small crack in the wooden door and the elf would fit through just fine. They manage to wiggle through as Krampus repeatedly tries to knock down the door. As the player quickly makes their way through the stables, they come across a step that they need to get up to. What they also find is quite shocking as well. It's the sleigh pullers, or what's left of them. They were once large, humble beasts, but now nothing but a pile of bones. The elf needs to drag one of the skulls over to the step to get up. Oddly enough, the elf is pretty convinced that they know which sleigh puller this skull belongs to. They quickly climb the skull and get up the step. They come across a ladder and decide to climb it. As they do, Krampus manages to burst the doors open. The elf quickly climbs the ladder before they get any closer. In a stroke of luck, the bottom half of the rickety ladder breaks off and falls to the ground. Luckily, they are just out of reach of Krampus. but they need to keep moving or else that could change quickly. They move through an open panel and find themselves shimmying across the metal gutters outside. Hanging from the gutters are rows of deadly sharp icicles. Each of them look pointier and sharper than the last. As they walk along the frozen gutter, Krampus notices them once more. He frantically tries to reach for them as the elf scampers along the gutter. The elf then realises there's only one thing to do. So in this gameplay segment, the player would need to run along the gutter and jump up and down above the icicles. Eventually they would break off and injure Krampus. The elf gets to work jumping up and down and forcing the sharp frozen icicles down on the vicious beast. An icicle breaks off and stabs into his body. Just a few more icicles should do the trick. As Krampus reaches for the player, he's stabbed by yet another icicle. It's almost like he doesn't care. He was far too enraged to even notice the sharp stabbing pain. Finally, the elf starts to jump up and down on the last icicle. This was the largest of the bunch, and it should definitely do some damage. The player needs to jump a great number of times to break this large icicle free. Eventually, after jumping and jumping, it cracks and crashes down towards Krampus. Finally, they've done it. Krampus was no more. Finally, the little elf was free. They walk over to the end of the gutter pipe and break the ice that covers it. They then slide down to the ground and crawl out of the rain pipe. The elf has never known freedom like this before. They were overwhelmed with what they would do with their new life. First of all, they need to find somewhere much more safe to live, if such a thing existed. And then, when the time was right, they would come back for their fellow elves and set them free. It would take some convincing, but they assure the cold and still body of their cruel overlord would prove otherwise. And once all the elves were free, they could finally live a life they deserved. A life free from cruelty and punishment. And maybe one day, they could find their original master, if he was still out there.
Alrighty everyone, well that was all for our Little Nightmares Christmas special with Krampus. If you enjoyed what you saw here today, then do be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. As always, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of Krampus and this special episode. Alrighty everyone, well to our next video, do be sure to have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Guys, Nick here, and welcome back to MovieJoob, and welcome back to our What Needs to Be in Little Nightmares. So a little while ago, I did a video on a Little Nightmares 2 DLC, and this was the school DLC. So in this video, I want to talk about a specific character that I didn't mention in that video, and that would be the principal. Now, I feel like the principal would be a pretty interesting character to get into, and I'd like to see what they could do with him as well. Also guys, I am aware that Tarsier Studios isn't really doing much with the Little Nightmares franchise anymore, but Bandai Namco still has it, and they could make something going forward. Anyway guys, before we start today's video, if you could please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Alrighty, let's get into some of my ideas and what we could see from the principal. So in that school DLC video, I talked about a character named the Student. In that DLC, the student would have gone up against multiple different antagonists, including multiple teachers, the lunch lady, and the bullies. In this DLC idea of mine, I always thought there would be a character that would really fit, but I never really added them. This would be the principal. The principal would be a tall character with disturbing facial features and a deranged look on his face. This character wouldn't be as tall as the Thin Man, but would still be a sizable character. There could be a lot of mystery surrounding the principal and his backstory, and his part in the DLC could explain exactly what's going on at this sinister looking school. So let's first start off with the principal's area and environment. So this portion of the DLC would be focused on his office. His office would be a creepy and somewhat off-putting place. The walls would be covered in old peeling wallpaper, and the back of the room there would be a large dusty bookshelf. Just in front of this bookshelf there would also be a large desk. At the principal's desk there would be strange oddities and knickknacks. For instance, a Newton's cradle made of the porcelain students' heads, and a large glass bottle. But instead of a model ship, there appears to be one of the bullies trapped inside this glass bottle. This could be where the naughtiest of all the children go, and maybe this could be a possible detention. Maybe when the children are bad, they get sent to the principal's office, but they never come back. So in this area, the student could do multiple puzzles and platforming. You could have to pull out a lot of drawers in his desk and climb your way up, or you use books to bridge gaps and get across areas, and it would be a creepy little detail if you could even play with those cruel knickknacks on his desk. When the principal is present in his room, he'd typically be doing paperwork at his desk, and the student would have to be super quiet to sneak past him. One interesting idea would be when the principal finally leaves this office, you start to climb the big dusty bookshelf. When climbing this bookshelf, one of your feet pushes down on a book and it triggers a lever. The bookshelf starts to slide over and it reveals a secret room. This room would be filled with spare doll-like parts of the children from the school. It's almost like these parts are to assemble students, almost like they're building them. As you venture down further through the creepy corridors, you come to a disturbing room. This leads us to the assembly area. In this room are different scattered parts, and in the center of the room is a half-built child who is missing some of their parts. So it's in this room that we discover that it's been the principal all along who has been assembling and building these children. We learn that the principal is obsessed with the idea of the ideal student. He believes that every child should be the same and equally as disciplined and well behaved. But like is the case with all children, you cannot make them turn out to what you want them to be. This is the case as we see some of the bullies from the second game still being naughty. So naughty children that misbehave go to the principal's office where they can be rebuilt and made into the principal's image. Also, this room could act as a creepy sickbay area where students could get their body parts replaced if they've ever broken them. When exploring this sinister area, you hear the bookshelf open once more. The principal has returned to the assembly area to finish off the student that he was building. In this gameplay segment, you'd have to try and sneak past the principal whilst he's working. The student could have to walk very carefully and not trip over any of the spare parts on the floor, or even accidentally step on and break any of the fragile porcelain hands or feet. If the principal spots you, he could frantically try to capture you and take you apart piece by piece. And if you've seen my school DLC I made, you'd know that this wouldn't go so well for the student if he was taken apart piece by piece. As you're walking down the corridor, nearly at the exit of the room, the principal spots you. The principal would madly chase you as he tramples over all the spare body parts on the ground. You hear loud cracking and crunching noises as the porcelain breaks beneath his feet. As you make it out of the exit, you quickly push the book lever back into place. The bookshelf slides back, trapping the principal in the room. After this ordeal, the student would wander out of the principal's office to continue on their journey, not realising what was in store for them at the end. Alrighty guys, that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Also, let me know down in the comment section below what you'd like to see from the principal and if you think it'd be a good addition to Little Nightmares. Also guys, if you're looking for some more Little Nightmares content on our channel, then you should check out Jade and Jordan's Let's Play of Little Nightmares 1, 2, and Secrets of the Maw. They're the other members of our channel and they've done a complete Let's Play of that series. So I think you guys will really enjoy it, and I'll link it down below as well if you want to watch that. Anyway guys, until the next video, catch you later, bye. Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome back to MovieJoob, and welcome back to our Little Nightmares character concept series. So in today's video, the character we're looking into is the Knight. So we'll be going through this character's gameplay mechanics, their location, and all that good stuff as well. And as always, I will just say that these are just our own ideas. We don't expect Bandai Namco or Tarsier Studios to really take any of these characters and make like a DLC or a third game with them. These are just some cool ideas we get to share, and we hope you enjoy. And lastly, before we start today's video, do be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It helps our channel out greatly, and it also keeps you up to date with all the videos that we post. Alrighty, well, let's take a look at the Knight. So in the last video, we were introduced to our main protagonist's friend, the Pale Child. In that video, they set out to find their friend that's been missing for quite a while. Ever since they set out to the plagued village to find them both some food, they haven't returned. The Pale Child almost made it out of the forest when they were met with a disturbing character, the Lumberjack. After narrowly escaping and beating the Lumberjack, they then continued their journey to find their friend. At the end of that video, it was revealed that their friend's name is Hollow. So whilst the pale child continues to search for their dear friend, we now return to Hollow, who's still searching for a way out of this cursed castle. After surviving their encounters with the Jester and the Executioner, they now find themselves in a completely different section of the castle. As they wander through the halls, they can see no sign of escape. No windows or anything. As they walk further, they approach a large set of doors, bound by chains and locked up with a padlock. They look up and see an insignia of 2 swords above the door. This door is the only room that they haven't inspected on this floor. There must be a way to escape somehow in this locked off area. Hollow sets out to find the key that should be somewhere close by. After exploring numerous rooms, they finally come across a room with a strange looking puzzle inside. Before them stands 3 stone symbols. A sword, a shield, and a helmet. Each of the stone symbols have 3 faces that can be turned by hand. In this puzzle segment, the player needs to arrange the 3 symbols in the correct order. Once they feel like they have the correct order, they then need to pull the lever on the wall. But if they're wrong, they would be met with a deadly outcome. Once the player has arranged all the 3 symbols in the correct order, they would pull the lever and receive the sword key. Hollow hurries back and unlocks the door. As they walk in, they're met with a cold, dark stone room. Along the walls hang sharp, deadly-looking weapons. There's also a number of weapons and shields all stacked up on a wooden rack. It becomes clear that they've stumbled upon the castle's armory. This is where all the weapons and gear are stored for all the multiple soldiers and knights of the castle. But these days there didn't seem to be many guards or soldiers around. As they walk down the dark stone corridors, they pass a number of large sets of armour. All of them just stand there in a row. It's almost like they could come to life and attack the player at any moment. With hesitation, Hollow carefully walks past these intimidating sets of armour. At the end of the hallway, they come to a large room. The room is filled with multiple dummies with swords impaled in them. This must be the training centre for all the knights and soldiers of the castle. Hollow walks down and approaches one of the strange wooden dummies. As they stand in front of it and stare, a large blade stabs right through from the other side. Startled by the sudden deadly attack, Hollow quickly runs and hides. As they peer out and get a better look, they see a strange looking character. This character is revealed to be the Knight. This mysterious character is wearing an old worn out suit of armour. It's filled with chips, dents, and for the most part it appears to be mostly rusted. Their helmet is open, but no face can be seen through the dark shadows underneath. Thin strands of long oily hair drape from underneath their helmet. They hold in their hand a large deadly spear. Every time they move, their weathered armour makes a metallic sounding clank. Hollow continues to stare at this obscure looking knight as they continue to stab and slash away at the wooden dummies. It's almost like the strange knight was training. Hollow decides to quietly exit this room and avoid the knight at all costs. The last thing they needed was another crazed character to cause them any harm. In this gameplay segment, the player needs to quickly sneak from dummy to dummy and avoid being seen by the knight. Whilst hiding behind the wooden dummies, they'd also have to be careful of the deadly blade that can stab through at any time. If the player is caught by the knight, they'd meet their end by their deadly sharp blade. When they finally reach the end of this room, all of a sudden, they see light. At the end of the room, the knight has opened the large wooden shutter. They let in the cold breeze and let the pale moonlight brighten their training area. Hollow stares at the other side of the room with wide eyes. Finally, a way out. Hollow decides the only way out of this castle is getting past the knight and leaving out that window. Once again, Hollow sneaks past the practicing knight until they reach the opening. As they climb up and look out off the ledge, they can see the village down below them. They were much higher up than they thought. Out of the corner of their eye, they see a small little figure wandering along the rooftops. It was the Pale Child. They've managed to enter the village and look for them. But Hollow was too far up for them to notice where they were. As Hollow stares out in the distance, the sharp blade pierces through the darkness, almost hitting them. Hollow almost loses their footing and nearly falls off. There's no way that Hollow can jump. They're way too high up and there's no vines to crawl down. They had no choice but to shimmy across and make it to the other window. As they do, the knight manages to stab their spear through any of the gaps in the stonework. The player would have to shimmy across the wall and also again be careful of the knight's deadly blade. Eventually, they come across another wooden shutter. They force it open just enough to make it through. They now find themselves in the armor room. Scattered piles of loose armor pieces lay around on the ground. Hollow seemed safe for now. It seemed that the knight didn't know where they were for the time being. After all this running and desperately trying to survive, Hollow grew very tired. They locked the door and decided to rest a while in the safety of an empty helmet. A few hours pass as they awaken and exit from the helmet. They unlock the door and check if the coast is clear. When it's safe to do so, they exit the armor room and continue forward. They now find themselves in a long corridor with multiple wooden dummies. But this time they're all suspended from the ceiling with arrows embedded in them. This must be another area where the knights train in. As they make their way through the corridor, they see a door on the other end. When they get closer to the door, it suddenly opens as the knight walks through. They quickly stab their spear into the ground, pinning Hollow's jacket. They were trapped. The knight had finally gotten them where they wanted. The knight's eyes started to glow through their shadowy visor. As they went to grab the trapped player, they heard a strange noise. The sound of a rope. All of a sudden, one of the heavy wooden dummies comes crashing down on the knight. Out from behind the knocked out knight appeared the Pale Child. They had finally found each other. Hollow frees himself from the spear and follows the Pale Child to the exit of the castle. Finally, it looks like the two characters might make it out after all. But who knows what other dangers lie in this cursed castle and plagued village. Alright everyone, well that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Also, do be sure to comment down below what you thought of today's video, and also what other characters you'd like to see going forward. Alrighty, well, until the next video, I'll catch you later, bye. Nick here, and welcome back to GameJoob, and welcome back to our Little Nightmares character concept series. So in today's video, we're looking into the King. So we'll be going into this character's location, their gameplay mechanics, and all that good stuff as well. Now as always, in every one of these videos, I will just... Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome back to GameJoob, and welcome back to our Little Nightmares character concept series. So in today's video, we're looking into the King. So we'll be going into this character's location, their gameplay mechanics, and all that good stuff as well. Now as always, in every one of these videos, I will just state that I don't really expect Bandai Namco or Tarsier Studios to really take these ideas and make them into like a third game or a DLC. These are just some cool ideas we get to share, and we hope you enjoy. And lastly, before we start today's video, if you could please consider subscribing to GameJoob, as it helps our channel out greatly and it keeps you up to date with the videos that we post. Alrighty, well, let's take a look at the King. So in our last video, the main protagonist Hollow came face to face with the dreaded knight of the castle. After evading all their deadly attacks and making their desperate escape, they found themselves cornered by the knight in the end of the video. Just as the deadly knight went to attack, one of their wooden training dummies crashed down on them from above. Behind the knocked out knight was their friend, the Pale Child.
They both ran for the exit of the castle so they could finally make their escape. As they travelled through the castle's winding corridors, they finally made it to the exit. But the door looks different from the last time the pale child passed through it. Now the door is covered in that dark, disturbing slime they've both seen throughout their journey. The dark, sinister sludge is stopping both of our protagonists from escaping. They both don't dare touch the stuff, as they would get corrupted like all the other villagers. All of a sudden, 4 strange-looking eyes emerge out of the slime. In anger, the pale child picks up a stone and throws it directly at one of the eyes. The stone strikes the eye and destroys it. This causes the amount of slime on the door to lessen. In this gameplay segment, the player would have to pick up whatever they can and toss them at the eyes. This wouldn't be the easiest task to do, as the eyes would start to move and dodge the stones. After the player has destroyed 3 eyes, they're now down to 1. As they throw the stone, the eye leaps off the door and scurries down a corridor. They need to destroy this last eye or else they'll never escape. Our 2 characters chase the stray eye throughout the castle. After running all the way to the top, they finally corner the slimy eye. As they approach this troublesome eye, it quickly slithers underneath a strange-looking door. This door had no handle or lock. All it had was 2 impressions of the same shape and size. It became clear to both children that they needed to find whatever fits in this door. As they search around, they come across another set of large doors. They both enter through and find themselves in a large dining area. This area was quite similar to the dining hall where Hollow first met the Jester. As they both explore the large room, they can see paintings spread out all over the walls, many strange-looking statues, and a large throne at the end of the room. The children both hear a sudden noise as they run off and hide. As they peer out to get a better look, Hollow sees a shape that he's seen somewhere before. As Hollow stares, it becomes clear who exactly they are looking at. As the shadowy figure steps into the light, it is revealed to be the King. The King is a disturbing looking character wearing a dirty, ripped gown in a dark royal red colour. Their frightful face holds 2 large dark eyes that stare into the abyss. Their mouth appears to be forced open, revealing their large, disturbing teeth. And atop their head lies a rusted old crown, and around their neck hangs 2 large gemstones. These gemstones look to be the same size as the impressions in the door. They must be what unlocks the door. But how they would exactly acquire them would be another issue. The King wanders over to their throne as they take a seat. In front of them lies a large unsightly meal filled with rotten food that also appears to be covered in the sinister dark slime. The children had to figure out a way to remove those jewels from their neck. As they continued to observe the King, they noticed whilst they were eating their disturbing meal, they would tend to nod off and fall asleep from time to time. It looks like they haven't slept in days. It also appears that all the residents of the castle seem to be obsessed with this dark slime. The only thing the King does is sit on their throne and consume it. It appears to be taking its toll on them. It's almost like they're controlled by the substance itself. Whilst the King continues to feast, the children decide to sneak up on a table and grab the jewels as they nod off to sleep. Whilst doing this, they need to be very careful not to make any sudden moves or sounds, or else they'll be noticed. As they get close enough, both the children hide on either side. After the players wait it out, they eventually make their move as the King nods off. Both of the children grab onto the jewels and pull them back away from their neck. Eventually, they both pull them free. As the 2 jewels break free from their necklace, they suddenly awake. The children quickly make their way to the door as the King chases after them. They exit the room and run down the corridor. They quickly approach the strange doors and fit the jewels in place. The internal latch releases and the doors open.
The children now find themselves in the royal quarters. They both quickly hide as the king bursts into the room. The king closes the door and starts to search for the two children. Whilst Hollow and the Pale Kid are slowly sneaking out of sight, Hollow accidentally drops a small ornament. As it hits the ground, the king immediately faces towards it and extends their sharp fingernails in a flash. They stab through the ornament and hold it to their face. If the children get spotted, they would be attacked by these long extending fingernails that could reach them anywhere in the room. Out of the corner of their eye, the pale child spots the eyeball hiding in the other end of the room. They then come up with an idea on how to destroy it. In this gameplay segment, the player would need to throw objects into the direction of the slimy eyeball. This would cause the king's nails to fully extend and stab through the eye, destroying it once and for all and freeing the exit downstairs. As they retract their nails and bring it closer to their face, the king suddenly eats it. Now that the eye has been destroyed, surely the door must be free. All the children need to do now is escape the room. As the king continues to search, they both make their way towards the exit. The only thing is, the king still stands in their way. Hollow comes up with an idea to get their attention. They make their way towards the ceiling and climb on top of the chandelier. They plan to snatch their crown off their head and throw it in the opposite direction. When the time is right, Hollow hangs upside down from the chandelier and grabs the crown. Before the king notices, they throw the crown in the opposite direction. The king, not knowing what the object was, extends their long fingernails. They stab directly through their precious crown. As they hold the damaged crown in their hands, they let out a troubled yell. The king suddenly panics as they rush to the other room to try and repair it. For the moment, both the children were free. As they exited the doors, they could almost taste their freedom. All they had to do was walk out the castle exit and they were free. As they ran through the corridors, their path was blocked by something far worse than the king. Both the children stare disheartened as they gaze upon the deadly new enemy standing in front of them.
Alright everyone, well that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing as it helps out a lot and it is greatly appreciated. Also, do be sure to comment down below what you thought of today's character and what you'd like to see going forward. Alrighty everyone, well until the next video, I'll catch you later.